Good morning. Well, another day, another mini. Picked this one up from a customer who was having some issues, and in describing the problem, seemed as though there were some actuator issues. So the actuator had been changed out and it didn't really solve the problem. Couldn't quite figure out what was going on, so did some tests, try to figure out what the current problems were, and we got to a point where it just didn't seem that it was switch related. For those of you that have never seen underneath here what that looks like, you got some switches, relays, some delay, timers, lights, some other stuff down here. And real common problems are whenever there's a problem and a switch gets changed out, a lot of times the wiring will be, something will end up on the wrong pin. And when that happens, it can fight itself. Everything will get set in the morning, go to use the machine, and then it won't. As soon as it goes into auto, it'll behave incorrectly, because when it tries to send current to move itself up, if something's been reversed in the switch, it'll move itself down, which exacerbates the problem. And so they run all the way one direction or all the way another direction, which very well could have been the case here. It just takes a little time to dig into that and find it. However, this one had a different problem. The actuators had run all the way up and they would not move down. Checking the switches didn't change anything, other than if you would try to power it down, it would change the voltage ever so slightly and then it would come right back. Figured out that the problem wasn't in the switch or anything up in the dashboard by isolating that. And so thankfully, folks at Somero were nice enough to let us dig into this control box and see if we could figure out what was going on from in here. And in doing so, found the problem, and it was a unique one for me. We've had control box failures before. Let me get some light on this subject. And this is a control box failure, but this one was unique. It wasn't that it wasn't working. There was signal. The switches were functioning correctly, but in the process, I found that as I was doing the testing, the receiver stopped working. They stopped reading the laser. So there were all these failures that just seemed to compound. What we found was, as soon as voltage was supplied to this box, even if we took all the control and everything from the dashboard out of the system and we bypassed it, that the control box was sending 11 volts demand to the raise side of the actuator. So in order to isolate that further, we took out the control unit and just kept testing pins, and we noticed that some of these Mosfets had failed, and they'd failed closed. As a result of that, even though there shouldn't have been voltage supplied to them, there was voltage that was coming through, and it was supplying on different legs of this, which were causing that demand in both sides of this guy. So that being the case, the new control box is coming today. We're going to switch that out. Double checked all the wiring, checked resistance, and everything is good to go. So as soon as we get that new control box, we're going to put that on and see what we have. We're going to send this one in and go from there. But if you're having problems, first place to look always at the switches, make sure that they're wired correctly. But things do fail, and in this case This is a machine with probably between 10 and 20 hours on it. So the failure in this came pretty quick, and it's a really, really odd thing to deal with. But just to give you an idea of some of the things that can happen to you, or some of the things you might be fighting, these are things that are resolvable, they're fixable, and sometimes the machine's doing something that none of us have ever observed before. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're crazy, and it doesn't mean that it's operator error. Sometimes there are such things as intermittent electrical failures. When that happens, just gotta kick the research up a notch and isolate that problem, get the new parts coming, and get that thing repaired. All right, enough tech talk. You guys have a great day.